Your role in the production chain of dairy foods has never been more important. As an American dairy producer, you're part of a dynamic, rapidly changing, growing industry. The milk that leaves your farm helps satisfy a tremendous demand for dairy products both domestically and overseas. You truly are a player in the world marketplace. You don't just milk cows for a living, you're in the business of producing milk. With that role comes a tremendous responsibility. For decades, we've known that milk's on-farm production and handling can directly impact consumers. Today, regulations and safeguards are in place to ensure that harmful bacteria, refuse, and violative antibiotic residues are not passed to humans through milk and other dairy products. These measures are necessary because bacteria in milk could cause gastrointestinal disorders and other life-threatening infections. Refuse, such as feed particles, blood, or manure, damages the quality and shelf life of milk. The dairy industry first started screening for violative antibiotic residues because they interfered with the performance of cheese cultures. Today, we also know that violative drug residues can trigger allergic reactions in some people. The consequences of shipping contaminated milk are serious. If a tanker load of milk contains violative drug residues, the violating producer must pay for it. This often amounts to $5,000 or $6,000 and usually will only be covered by a producer's insurance policy once. In some states, producers also may face civil fines, criminal prosecution, and temporary or permanent loss of a Grade A permit to ship milk. Fortunately, you're not alone in the quest to produce safe milk. Veterinarians, milk processors, and retailers also play important roles in protecting the safety of the milk that goes from your bulk tank to the supermarket dairy case. To help dairy producers and veterinarians work together in protecting milk safety, the National Milk Producers Federation and the American Veterinary Medical Association have developed the Milk and Dairy Beef Quality Assurance Program. A major component of the program is a 10-point plan for avoiding violative drug residues in milk. Your veterinarian gets involved right at the beginning. Point 1 is to practice healthy herd management. A comprehensive herd health program will make your cows more profitable and less dependent on drug treatments. Point 2 is to establish a valid veterinarian client-patient relationship. This means that your veterinarian should be familiar with your operation and your management systems. When veterinarians write prescriptions, they need to know the disease condition and animal or animals being treated. This leads to point 3. Use only FDA-approved over-the-counter or prescription drugs with a veterinarian's guidance. To gain FDA approval to label drugs for specific veterinary uses, pharmaceutical companies have to put drugs through a battery of tests to ensure efficacy and safety. This testing protects you and the veterinarian. Drugs should not cause violative residues if they're administered to their labeled species, at their indicated dosage, frequency, and route of administration, and if labeled milk withholding times are followed. Points 4 and 5 make sure all drugs have labels that comply with state and federal requirements and are stored correctly. This is a joint responsibility between you and your veterinarian. You both should follow the proper labeling and storage requirements. The remaining points fall more into your court. Point 6 is to administer all drugs properly and identify all treated animals. Because your veterinarian probably isn't present to give every injection and administer every bolus, it's important to learn how each drug should be given, including frequency, dosage, and route of administration. More than one residue violation has occurred because drugs labeled IM for intramuscular injection were mistakenly administered by intramammary infusion. After treatments are given, have a system in place to clearly identify treated cows, such as chalking, leg bands, or tail tapes. To play it extra safe, you might want to use a combination of 2 of these methods. Point 7 is to maintain and use proper treatment records on all treated animals. This system doesn't need to be complicated. It can range from computer records to waterproof wall charts to pages in a 3-ring binder. Your veterinarian or milk plant field representative may have a system that you can use. Regardless of the record-keeping method, make sure it's used faithfully by everyone who milks your cows and administers medications. That's part of point 9, implementing employee and family awareness of proper drug use to avoid marketing adulterated products. It's a good idea to limit the number of people who administer drugs in your operation to 1 or 2. Point 10 is to review the 10-point plan annually and complete a checklist ensuring that all of the steps are taken. Ideally, this should be done jointly with your veterinarian. A little brushing up every year can help identify trouble spots and reinforce the importance of following all 10 steps. We've intentionally skipped point number 8 because it involves more detailed discussion. This point suggests that you use drug residue screening tests only on cows treated with extra-labeled drugs and only if an appropriate test is available. Your veterinarian should provide special guidance on all extra-labeled drugs and the availability of appropriate screening tests. Point 8 does not suggest using screening tests to evaluate the milk of every cow after every drug treatment. While this may sound like an ultra-safe way to eliminate violative residues, it actually could unnecessarily take money out of your pocket without reducing your risk of creating violative drug residue. That's because the screening tests available for on-farm use can detect drug levels in milk far below the safe levels established by the FDA. They also can be set off by non-drug components in milk and show a positive result when absolutely no drugs are present. In either case, you would be forced to discard perfectly saleable milk. Further, testing cows that you know are at the end of their drug withholding time is counterproductive because 1, the drug's FDA-approved label ensures that no violations will occur when used according to label, and 2, these are not the cows most likely to cause a residue violation. Most violative drug residues are caused by accidents, such as a dry cow being milked accidentally, a cow freshening early, or failure to mark or observe markings on a treated cow. In none of these cases would you routinely test a violating cow. A more accurate and comprehensive approach to on-farm drug screening is to test the tank, not the cow. This means testing a sample of each bulk tank of milk before it is shipped. That way, any mistakes are detected before the milk enters a transport tanker. Following the 10-point plan should ensure a smooth trip for your milk through the processing cycle. One of the closest contacts you have with your processor is your milk hauler, who is either an employee or contractor of the processing organization. Haulers are responsible for drawing properly agitated samples of your milk for testing at the plant, clearly identifying those samples and transporting them safely to the plant. Your milk hauler also should follow a careful routine to protect the cleanliness and sanitation of your milk. Another important contact is your processor field representative. He or she can provide many helpful suggestions on improving the quality and protecting the safety of your milk. They include tips on effectively implementing the 10-point plan, such as drug storage information and record-keeping systems. When milk arrives at the processing plant, each tanker load is screened for beta-lactam antibiotics. Beta-lactams make up the family of antibiotics that contains penicillin, to which humans are most likely to be allergic. If violative beta-lactam residues are found, the hauler will not be allowed to unload the milk until it's retested with a confirmatory test. If the residue is confirmed, the tanker load must be discarded, and the tedious process of determining the origin of the residue begins. Again, nearly all violations are unintentional and caused by mistakes. If you have a residue violation, it's important to focus on where a breakdown in your safety system might have occurred and fixing the problem so the mistake doesn't happen again. Your milk plant field rep will be available to assist you with this process. Even if the tanker load is cleared for beta-lactam residues, every sample from your bulk tank undergoes numerous tests at the milk plant, including individual antibiotic screening. At the receiving lab, its temperature and acidity are also measured, and each sample goes under the microscope to check for the presence of bacteria. At another lab, more extensive bacterial sampling is performed, and the freezing point is tested to make sure no water has been added to the milk. An automatic instrument determines the somatic cell counts of each sample and measures the total solids, including protein and butterfat. This information helps determine how much you are paid for your milk under the multiple component pricing system and your processor's quality bonus program. Many labs also conduct pasteurization and pre-incubation tests to determine the shelf life of fluid milk. Pasteurization itself involves heating the milk to 161 degrees Fahrenheit, then rapidly cooling it to kill most or all of the bacteria present. At the processor, various amounts of butter fat are removed from your milk to provide the retailer with fluid milk of various fat contents, such as 1%, 2%, skim, or whole milk. Skim milk contains 0.5% butterfat or less. Whole milk contains about 3.7%. The remaining fat is spun into suspension through the homogenization process, so the cream does not separate from the rest of the milk. Many processors also fortify milk, especially skim milk, with vitamins A and D. Milk not sold for fluid consumption may be transported to other manufacturing sites for processing into butter, powder, cheese, yogurt, ice cream, or sour cream. Most processed dairy products are sealed with tamper-resistant packaging and must be clearly marked with lot numbers and shelf life information. Then it's up to the retailer to properly refrigerate the products and observe shelf life dates. All of these checks and balances combined, starting with your cows and ending in the dairy section at the supermarket, contribute to the safest dairy food supply in the world. Much credit for milk's excellent safety record is owed to the fact that serious illnesses in dairy cows are prevented or humanely treated by you or your veterinarian with FDA-approved drugs. In trying to prevent violative drug residues, it's tempting to avoid antibiotics altogether. In truth, antibiotics make the milk you produce much safer. Bacteria are a proven risk to public health and would proliferate in dairy cattle and the milk they produce without antibiotics. The best place to destroy and prevent bacteria is at the beginning of the production cycle in your cows with on-label use of FDA-approved antibiotics. By working together with your veterinarian and processor, you can use a team approach to producing safe milk from the healthy cows in your operation. You're the captain of this team, so don't be afraid to call your players together from time to time to review the game plan. A periodic meeting between you, your veterinarian, milk hauler, processor field rep, and employees can only help promote good relationships and increase everyone's awareness and understanding of the role they play. Producing safe milk requires a lot of dedication, cooperation, and attention to detail from your place to the dairy case. And there are lots of little reasons, as well as big ones, why that effort is so worthwhile.